In my review of It Follows, there was a few things I really wanted to say about the film. Unfortunately, some of that stuff might delve a little too deep into spoiler territory. So if you haven't figured it out yet by the title, this is my spoiler review of It Follows. So if you have not seen It Follows and you don't want anything spoiled, then stop watching this video and go to my spoiler-free review, which I will leave a link down in the description box. I'm serious, I'm going to be breaking down some important scenes in the film to explain some of the things that I loved about it. So if you haven't seen the movie, this is your final warning. Okay, so everyone still watching this video has seen It Follows? Good, let's get started. So one of the things I really wanted to talk about, and I mentioned in my spoiler-free video, is the cinematography is pretty damn amazing. Now, the cinematography of a film is one of the aspects I don't talk too much about in my movie reviews because sometimes there's just no personality to them and they're just not grand enough to see something amazing out of it. I think the last time I talked to people about something that had some really good cinematography in it is, I think, Godzilla 2014. I think that's the last movie I actually talked about cinematography. There's just something about the cinematography in It Follows that feels more artistic. Now every time the camera panned or turned around or zoomed in or zoomed out or did any sort of movement whatsoever, it did so very slowly, imitating the speed that the creature walks. Not only did the slow movement of the camera imitate the creature, but it added to the intense but slow pacing of the film and just helped unify the cinematography with the pacing of the story. Plus, what the camera chose to show us did help me get into the mindset and the paranoia that this main girl, had to have been going through. Every time it showed a person walking in the background, made me think, is that the creature? Or is it not? Is it the creature? I can't tell. And it gets you really second guessing yourself and trying to figure out who's the creature, who isn't. And sometimes, obviously, you know, sometimes it proves that it's not the creature, and then there are a few times where it doesn't say whether it's the creature or not, and you don't really get a hint of whether it could be the creature or maybe it's just some random person walking. There's at least 2 or 3 instances of that. And then I think it really helps to get closer into the mindset of this character is that you don't really see it until she ends up getting the curse. Which brings me to the first scene of this movie, which a lot of people could think is completely dumb and stupid and kind of funny, because some people will not make sense of it, I know. And I can understand it, but if you watch the rest of the film and realize that the creature cannot be seen unless you have the curse, then it puts a whole nother spin to that first scene, which is what you're supposed to feel. Okay, so the first scene is this random girl that just runs out of her house for no apparent reason. She runs, she's in high heels, she's in really short shorts and like a tank top or something along those lines, something very revealing clothing, and she runs down the sidewalk in her high heels, just running, and she turns around and goes into the middle of the street. And so she turns around facing the camera and just sort of backs away. And there's this girl, this other girl is in this driveway and she's like taking out the groceries or something, and she notices that this girl running and she's like, is something wrong? And she's like, and the girl not taking her eyes off something behind the camera, it's like, yeah, everything's fine, it's fine. And she just keeps backing up, and we don't know why. We got this intense music, and then eventually she runs around the other way and runs back to the house. Now, this kind of feels a little dumb, especially me just explaining it, but there's a reason, of course. So then a scene later on in the movie is our main girl, which is someone completely different from the first girl, because the first girl dies, and she's with her boyfriend, and they're in the theater, and they're playing this sort of guessing game where they pick someone out in the crowd that they wish they could be, and then the other person has 3 guesses to figure out which person they've chosen. They're in the theater, the boyfriend's guessing who the girl would want to be, and he picks out this girl in a yellow dress. And so our main girl turns around, she's like, "What girl in yellow dress?" She's looking, he's like, "Right there." And there's no one there. And that is our first clue we get that maybe the creature can only be seen by the people that are cursed. And that puts a whole new meaning to the beginning when you realize, oh, they're not showing the creature because we can't see it. But of course, when our main girl finally gets the curse, it is the first time we see the creature, and it puts us into her perspective. Another thing you find out when you watch It Follows is there's a lot of aspects of the film that allow the audience to pick up the pieces and put together themselves. Now, this is a concept done in many art films and indie films and just good films in general, but we haven't seen a lot of that in horror movies nowadays. And so by the end of It Follows, there are a few things that are left open to the audience's interpretation, which is really nice. Like, for instance, the creature takes different forms to try to get closer to our main hero. And a lot of these different forms, if you realize and if you notice, are people in pictures in her house. And it leaves, some of them are pretty obvious, like maybe that's her grandparents or maybe that's her father and so on and so forth. But it leaves the audience guessing what might have happened to these people and why is it taking the form of these people to get close to her, and so on and so forth. Yeah, it really doesn't over-explain itself, which is really nice because there's several scenes where you really don't need explaining. You can figure it out yourself. Like when they go to the boyfriend's house because he is ditched. After he gave her the curse, he ditched. He just completely left, and the house that he had been living in is just this rundown house that really has no owner. And when they go into the house, you just see all these different little things, crazy things in the house, like bottles hanging over the window and stuff to indicate that, hey, if something comes in through the window, I can hear it, and so I can be prepared if it's the creature. And like secret holes in the walls and so on and so forth. And you really don't need to get an explanation of why that's there or anything. But some movies, they would have a character usually see something strange, like the bottles hanging from the window, for instance, and say, "What is this for?" And then another character would say, "Well, maybe it's because of blah, 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 blah." You don't really need that. Even when they make plans to try to kill the creature in the pool, they don't explain the plan. You just see it being set up and then you realize, that's what the plan is. Instead, most movies would either have the characters explain right on scene before they set it up what's going to happen, like as if they're repeating it again to everyone else, or they would be setting things up and then you'd have like some internal dialogue happening where they're explaining what's going to happen and stuff. I think the best moment that I had in the theater when I watched It Follows was not just the climactic scene in the pool, but there's this one scene in particular that a lot was going through my head. So here's the scene. Our main girl is with her friends and her neighbor, and they're at their neighbor's summer home of some sorts, or lake home, because they're on a beach. Now there's 5 teens total, and you just see 4 of them at this one particular moment. And they're just sitting in lawn chairs and what have you, and talking about the creature, talking about what the boyfriend had said, and yada yada yada. And eventually the neighbor kid gets up and has to go take a piss. Now there's this one shot that they keep showing, and it's a close-up of the girl where you can see the woods in the background and the rest of the beach and so forth. And you start seeing this woman start walking up behind our main hero, and immediately we think, walking, it's the creature. But as I was watching that scene, I was thinking, wait a minute, that creature has the dark hair, and the friend that they're not showing has dark hair as well. Maybe that's just the friend. Maybe that's just the slightly nerdy or whatever friend with the glasses. Eventually the neighbor has to get up, go take a piss, and he walks right past her, not even acknowledging her. And I'm thinking, okay, it's either the creature because he can't see it, or it really is the friend that we haven't been seeing in this scene, and he just didn't talk to her because he has to go take a piss and whatnot. Right? And so he goes off, and the girl keeps walking, getting closer, getting closer. It's still a little fuzzy. You can't tell if it's the girl or if it's the friend or not. And it starts getting a little clearer. It's like, okay, it's the friend or it's the creature imitating the friend. And then this one scene reveals it all. Basically, it's a side view of our main girl, and you see the lake to the right of her. And just coming into the screen, into the shot, is the friend on this inner tube just floating into the shot. And you realize, friend's in the lake. Yes, it's the creature. Even the ending felt like it left on the perfect note. Basically, it's our main girl, and she's with her guy friend who she hooked up with in the course of this film. And they're just walking down this sidewalk towards the camera, and in the background you see someone walking. Now you never know if it's the creature or not. It just shows something walking towards them. They're holding hand in hand, walking towards the camera, and then it just ends. Now I can understand people feeling there's no resolution, or the film didn't really go anywhere because it just went back to where it started. Yet that mindset is probably thinking right off the bat that it's the creature that's walking behind them, when you really don't know if it's the creature or not. It never says it's the creature. It could be just some random guy walking down the sidewalk behind them. And that leaves the audience with the ultimate decision on whether they think it's the creature or just some random guy walking. And honestly, I like that open ending because some people are going to think it's the creature, some people are going to think it's just some random guy, and either one could be right. It also gives us an understanding that these characters will never completely feel safe. And there's going to always be this impending doom haunting them, because if the people that they gave the curse to dies, the thing's just going to come after them, and they'd have to do it all over again. So, what did you think about It Follows? Did you like it? Does this help make you like the film even more now, or like it to begin with? And if you like this video, just go ahead and subscribe, and I will be doing more movie reviews. I think I will be up to 44 by the end of today, hopefully. As always, this is Bruce Gifford, and this was Just My Opinion.